Hey guys, it's Onin. Today on Onin's Rite, I want to talk about a topic that I wasn't really sure if I wanted to address this in a video, but recently it's gotten actually relevant with the survey that Stonlock Studios put out. And that's the question of game pacing. It's a question that they put in the survey themselves, whether people would like it to be faster or slower or just stay the same. And I made an argument that this game just needs to be significantly faster. So the main reason I came to this conclusion is because I know a whole bunch of very competitively oriented players that think Battle Rite just gets boring. Like, it's a good game, but you don't really play it for more than an hour or so. Contrary to games like Dota, where you can easily spend several hours playing several rounds, or games like Overwatch, where you play until 4 AM in the morning because it's just such a good game. I mean, you can disagree with the fact whether it's a good game or not, but the people that enjoy playing it just play it for ages. Whereas Battle Rite, I totally recognize the idea that, you know, it's a cool game, but playing it for several hours on end just kind of starts getting boring. And I think the reason that it gets boring is because it's just not tense enough. It's just not lethal enough. Things don't feel like they matter nearly as much. Your mistakes don't get punished as hard. Your good plays aren't as good as you think they are. And so to give the easiest example of how things could be, I'd like to go back to Bloodline Champions for a moment. So here's a great example of what Bloodline Champions could be like. And I'm just gonna let the first round play itself out. So that was about 5 seconds, and their healer died. Just straight up died. You're gonna see the exact same thing again here. You gotta swap into Volcano, into all the burst damage that they can do. This time he manages to escape with the space, but there's still unrelenting pressure. And so, at this stage, again, about 5 seconds into the match, we've got Igniter at half HP, Headhunter at half HP, Blood Priest and Spearmaster both at a quarter HP, and 2 people basically healthy. In like 5 seconds! That's how quickly these matches could be decided when people had their combos on point and you got hit by one really bad skill. In this case, the entire thing that this team of Psychopomp, Igniter, and Spearmaster is about. You hit swap, you hit a Volcano straight on top of it, which should be undodgeable if your timing is perfect, and then you just get blown up with immense amounts of burst damage. That's cool. That's really cool. That's so tense and just super high skill, high punishment. Getting hit by these is great for one side. Managing to dodge them at the last moment is awesome for the other side. And the title kinda notes why this was removed in Battle Rite, because if this happened to you while you had no idea what you're doing, that feels pretty bad. But just from a gameplay stance, isn't this so much cooler than how long a Battle Rite game takes? So you might think that that's maybe a bit of like nostalgia or wistful thinking or such, like we just want it to be like BLC because BLC was so great. But I actually have some arguments as to why it fits the genre in general. So some of the difficulties of designing Bloodline Champions and Battle Rite both is that their genre is kind of undefined. Whereas other competitive games like Overwatch and Dota that I mentioned have some other things to draw their design from, their inspirations from. So obviously Overwatch is just a first-person shooter and it takes inspiration from every single other first-person shooter in the game. In the industry, with all kinds of characters having different first-person shooter mechanics. But that game just makes sure that the act of first-person shooting is so crisp and fun that you'll play it for that. And then you can also enjoy all of the team-based aspects and the cool art and the cool characters and such. It's kind of the same with Dota. It has its inspirations in, well, kind of its own genre these days, but primarily in this bit of a mixture of RTS and RPG components. But Battle Rite is a little bit of a weirder mixture. So, the aspect ratio, the position of the camera, etc. While it looks like a bit of a MOBA, you shouldn't be taking too much experience from that. What it actually mostly feels like is a bit of a middle ground between a shoot 'em up and a twin stick shooter, just looking at the controls. Because those are the kinds of games where you have semi-top-down view. This is more bird's eye like a MOBA, but it kind of functions like a top-down view. Technically, the game is just two-dimensional after all. And you're aiming things with your mouse, and you're moving with WASD, just like in shmups and just like in twin-stick shooters. And then from the competitive aspect, the attraction is all in the idea of having your MOBA team fights last, you know, an entire round. Like, just condensing the entirety of the MOBA genre down into the team fights and having just that be the entire game, the entire attraction to it. But here's the thing. Shmups and twin-stick shooters are completely defined by how lethal they are. The core gameplay loop of a shmup is you constantly dodging everything that's fired at you while you're just kind of holding the shoot button and automatically dealing damage to some kind of massive, huge boss that you should never be able to take down with your tiny little ship. And if you get hit once, you're dead. And that's the reason that those games are cool. They are super punishing, but they feel super rewarding when you get it right. When you do everything perfectly and you don't get hit once. Meanwhile, twin-stick shooters are kind of the same in the opposite end. In most twin-stick shooters, your enemies die really fast, but there are so many of them that you just have to do the best job you can, killing all of them as fast as possible, or dodging whatever they do manage to throw at you, because you can get overwhelmed by them and die that way. So there it's a matter of making sure you hit every single thing you throw at them, or otherwise risk dying in the process. So those two game modes in general, those two genres, are fueled by a sense of lethality, of everything just being very high risk, very high reward, and just fueling all of the tension and all of your skill through how good you are at surviving or how good you are at hitting your shit. And if you make mistakes, you die. And then there's MOBA teamfights, and again, the main difference between a teamfight in any MOBA, not just Dota, basically any MOBA, is that they can be done really quickly. And they also have this really specific sense of pacing. You start off kind of looking for your positions, just figuring out what your game plan's going to be on the engagement. Then one of the teams gets an initiation with whoever their initiator is, or sometimes even someone else, and you just collapse in an instant. Everyone does all their jobs as best they can, and people die really fast most of the time. Sometimes they don't, but in most team fights, someone dies immediately, and then you have to do the best you can to either get some kind of advantage back, or to try and retreat and minimize your losses. And if those team fights take 2 to 3 minutes, they immediately just become less tense and less interesting. It just becomes kind of a weird slugfest. So that's why I think high lethality is just gonna be so important for this game going forward. The core gameplay is based on genres with high lethality, where the high lethality is the reason those games are engaging and thrilling. And Battlerite just, at times, it really isn't that engaging and isn't as thrilling as it could be. So that's why I really think going for a higher gameplay pace is crucial to the health of this game. Personally, I suggest just simply nerfing everyone's health base down so that everything else stays the same. Maybe some mechanics need some tweaking here or there, like make the rune a little bit less important, change some numbers on rounds, or like the amount of healing people can do, or anything else that's required, but just figure a way to make lower health pools function properly so that your combos actually matter. You can destroy people with a good combo. But of course there are other options. There are other ways to increase the gameplay pace. You can just increase damage around the board. You can add additional mechanics which allow you to punish people harder. There are a lot of options, but the core issue is the gameplay pace. This is not as high as I think this game needs to be. So I implore you guys, when you take the survey that they've put out, vote for a way higher game pace, because I almost guarantee you that that's gonna save this game, or at least it's gonna be good for the health of it going forward. So that's basically all I wanted to talk about. There's a bunch of other details about this topic I could go into, but I kind of just want to keep this as short and sweet as I'm able to, which is not very. So thanks for watching, guys, and as always, leave any comments down below.